Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gooner Ramble. First and foremost, apologies for the slight delay. We did have a few technical difficulties. Still recovering from what was a fantastic win yesterday for the Arsenal, 4-1 away from home at the Stadium of Light. Tonight, I'm joined by the wonderful Clive and Woz, and we're going to be talking over that game and taking a brief look ahead to Ludogorets in midweek. But first of all, take a look at that game yesterday, Clive. It was rather stressful at times, especially when it went back to 1-1. But that final 20 minutes from Arsenal, simply mesmeric. It was a beautiful performance. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, I think the game was almost in like three sections. The start of the game, we were playing our normal stuff, quite nice, playing ball around, always wanted to get the first goal. Looking at Sunderland, I'm not sure I was team. In the Premiership, they just weren't competing. They didn't know whether to press or drop off. We got into midfield. They just let us do what we like. And basically, they were very, very poor. Right? So we score our goal, and then we start playing what I call 3-0 football when it's 1-0. And that always worries me. So the nerves kick in, and as a fan, you want the second goal. And then there was a period where we got a little bit slack, and then they scored. And then it's all about the reaction, really. And the reaction was quite ferocious, really, the way we sort of turned it around 6-7 minutes. And scored the goals, which was very, very nice. But a couple of Arsenal today. And we saw some changes in our midfield, we saw some changes in our forward line. So we got to see a little bit of what could be the future, a plan A and a plan B. So I'm sure how we saw back, what we saw in midfield, what we saw up. It was a little bit lagging. There was a couple of those. Yeah, I could sort of, just to summarise from my angle, 0-0, I wasn't too worried about. That was just a little bit unfortunate, and we didn't quite have it, and we could have lost the game. And Middlesbrough showed versus Bournemouth, they weren't complete mugs, they're actually a decent side on the way up. But if we'd have drew against Sunderland, I would have been traumatised, right? Because they're so poor, and no one else is going to draw there. Everyone's going to win there. So it was a great 3 points, and be happy.
Yeah, of course. Woz, you were at the game, of course, and as Clive said, at 1-1, I think all Arsenal fans had their heart in their mouths at a point. It was absolutely horrifying to see what could have potentially unravelled, seeing us possibly lose points away from home at what is, I would go as far as saying, the worst team and the worst managed and prepared team in the Premier League. Sunderland look awful this season. They look absolutely abysmal. What did you make of proceedings?
Yeah, what you said, really, mate. I mean, if we had walked away, to echo what Clive said, if we had walked away with only a point there, it would have been a travesty, because they really are. They've been there or thereabouts down the bottom for the last few years, Sunderland, and they're sort of a bad spell that ain't dropping out of it. And their local rivals went last year, obviously, and I think this year their time's up. I mean, that side is one of the worst, like you just said, one of the worst prepared, and individually they got nothing. And if the foe ain't playing well, and Defoe's not an old man now, but he's on the back end of his career, and it's just a really, really poor side. And I think at 1-0, like Clive said, we were coasting, and they were really, really there for the taking. And the holes and the gaps, I mean, you could see it. It's such a big pitch at the Stadium of Light, and I just think we should have been a lot more ruthless. And I think we were a bit reserved in the way we were sort of attacking them in the first half, and we weren't really exploiting wide areas as much as we really could have. And obviously the goal proved to come from that. We'll talk to that a bit more, but we didn't often take the opportunity to stretch the game and stretch the big pitch. And it's quite simplistic, and we were sort of coasting, and you always knew in the back of your mind. I saw Mark mention it, who's always coming on. He said, look, it'll be a dodgy refereeing decision, or we'll give away a penalty or something, and they'll be back in the game. And you just looked at him, because they were so poor. And to be fair though, even when we did concede, I didn't at any point think we wouldn't win that game, because I knew what was on our bench, and I know we'll elaborate on the way the game went and everything. But at the end of the day, like we said, everyone else will win there this season. I'm fairly sure of it, unless Sunderland perform a miracle. David Moyes he's got a very, very tough task in his hand, and I think even if he leaves, whoever comes in, them individuals and them players, I just think that club is unfortunately only heading one way this season. But from our point of view, it was nice to get the goals towards the end and really close out the game in style. And we didn't make hard work of an easy game, but it really could have been done and dusted a lot earlier. But it shows that it is a squad game, and we had squad players in that, quite a few squad players in that starting 11, and they've all done their job, and we've come out of it with our bench winning us the game. So it's a nice teaser for, like as Clive said, what could be to come.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, you look at the end of the game, that final 20 minutes. I said at the start, it was beautiful to watch, and we scored 3 goals in the space of about 10 minutes. You can't help but feel that if we'd have played with that intensity, maybe even had Olivier Giroud start this game, that we could have been scoring double digits in this match. It was, the way they capitulated in such a short space of time. So weirdly, after they'd scored their first goal, you would have thought that would have spurred them on, but it didn't. It was the total opposite of that. They looked terrified at times. They just went right back into their shell, made it very easy for us. And in a way, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying I feel sorry for David Moyes, because don't get me wrong, I think he's an incredibly unmotivating manager after games like that. But the set of players that he's got on his hands, it's a near impossible task. And I think he's done an awful job over the summer in bringing in players like Stephen Pienaar, players like this who are absolute has-beens. Sunderland, as you say, for me, they're definitely on the way down. But it's important that we got that 4-1 victory. With what you say are squad players, in a way, Clive, we did see a few changes in the team. El Nene retained his place. He's played a couple of games in a row for us now. I thought he had, as Woz would say, a rather simplistic, but I would certainly say a very efficient game. We saw the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain start. Kieran Gibbs came into the team. What did you make of the likes of Gibbs and Chamberlain that came into the Arsenal frame?
Right, so let's have a little chat. It was now about our centre midfield. Here we go. Right, so we did have a little chat online yesterday, so I'll just expand on that for everybody else. Right, so I think Arsenal have got what I call one real barrier, and that is to success, and that is what I call pace of pass. Right, so you can always tell with Arsenal how we're playing when the ball is moving quickly, and when what our speciality is what I call technical intensity. So people talk about intensity of the ball, they talk about pressing, but Arsenal's real trick, we've got real technical players that the faster the ball moves, the better they are when they receive it. They can do things with it, their touch is perfect. And so for us, our barrier is pace to success is what I call pace of pass. When a team is as poor as Sunderland, there's a natural tendency that we pass slow. And when we pass slow, we become standing targets to the tackle, right? To the physicality. And what referee, the referee was almost a sympathy ref. He was letting them smash us. And he would say, well, you're going to win anyway. So just play on. I hate that, right? So ref the game properly, manage the game properly. There's one team in charge of the ball. Give them the fouls when they deserve them. Don't just don't just let it play on like that. So once we start, because Sunderland didn't compete with us and didn't force us to the levels of our physicality that we can get to, we start to slow the game down until eventually they get in and then they get the penalty. Now this is something, and also the weakness of Arsenal. Sometimes we switch off. Now last year, Peter Cech gets sent off. We're down to 10 men. They score. That's a 1-1 draw, right? So we have that weakness. We have to be more ruthless. We have to keep the pace of pass up. So when the game then kicked into a 1-1 scenario, the pace of pass changed. The ball moved into wide areas more quickly. And hey, presto, we've won the game, right? So if I move it back to the difference, I keep thinking about Middlesbrough and Sunderland. When we played against Middlesbrough, our midfield two were a little bit static, a little bit safe, passing amongst each other, and Ozil and Sanchez coming deep. The difference, and we didn't eventually break them down. Middlesbrough were decent. They held the lines much better than Sunderland. But the difference yesterday was, like, what teams have been doing to us is they've been giving us wide areas, knowing we can't cross the ball. So they've been giving that to us. But it's interesting yesterday that 3 of our goals came from crosses, and we used wide areas much better. So yes, there's a lack of invention from centre midfield, Coquelin and El Neni, but maybe it's all we've discovered a new balance. When you play Coquelin and El Neni, they both want to facilitate the ball out wide. So maybe that is the day to have a centre forward that wants the ball out wide, right? So it's almost like when you have Coquelin and El Neni, yes, I must have Giroud. When I have Santi Cazorla, and we're playing small up front and Theo on the right, then we can play the intricate, go down the middle football. But the interesting thing for yesterday was what I hadn't seen for a while was how we use wide areas so well. And a combination of the two boys that come in, Cookie, obviously Gibbs and Oxlade-Chamberlain, they both got an assist each from wide areas, right? So that was a bit of a glance into the future, right? Because we're going to need two different styles, right? We can't always survive off the highly technical, highly complex style, which is driven by Santi, Ozil, and Sanchez. Because if any one of those components are not there, what do we do? But to see the other style yesterday, where we could still take the ball out wide a little bit quicker, not perfectly. We didn't hold our width all the time. I know Wazzy's going to say that because Oxlade-Chamberlain did get a bit narrow. Well, we did get a bit narrow. But Gibbs was a lifesaver yesterday, getting wide. And when the Ox did get wide, he caused damage, particularly in the first half. So we saw two styles yesterday, and they worked, right? So that gives me a lot of hope for the future. And the squad players, we're going to need them all, right? I said it. I always said it. I've got my favourites. We've all got our favourites. But we're not going to win anything without all of them being on their game and ready. And it's quite interesting to see the squad. The squad's having an effect on people. Because when Giroud came on and when Ramsey came on, they were running around like 2-year-olds. They were everywhere. They looked so fresh. They looked so keen. They looked so eager. And that's they're coming back now, right in the month of November, when we got some tough games, and we're gonna need every single player to have a contribution.
Yeah, without doubt, some excellent points raised there. And on that note of Aaron Ramsey and Olivier Giroud obviously got the 2 goals, but I thought Aaron Ramsey, for the 15 odd minutes that he was on the pitch, I thought he had a real impact on the game, worked tirelessly for the time that he was on the pitch. But I just want to bring the question back about our centre midfield. I think it's a really interesting debate that you and Clive tend to have. And we had a little discussion over Twitter yesterday about one player in particular, Mohamed El-Nene. I think, in the time that he's played for Arsenal, for a £5 million player, he's fine. And as you rightly say, he is somewhat simplistic, but he's good at the simplistic stuff, as evidenced in his Arsenal career. I don't think, maybe apart from the Liverpool game, he's particularly put a foot wrong. And, at Arsenal, we should always be striving for the best players in our midfield. But for someone to come in away from home at the Stadium of Light, to contribute so well to a game, I thought, I think he's done very well for the price that we paid for him and what he can offer to the squad. And you've got to bear in mind as well, he has only just turned 24 years old. So his best years, I would argue, are certainly ahead of him. I was just thinking before the game that him and potentially Aaron Ramsey could form a nice partnership in the middle. Do you see, I know you're definitely going to say no on this, but do you see possibly Mohamed El-Nene forming some sort of partnership in the midfield, maybe in a couple of seasons' time with one of our other players?
I'm not going to completely dismiss that because I'd be stupid to do so. But the one thing I would say about Mohamed El-Nene is I wouldn't say he's spectacular at anything, but he's okay at everything. Yeah. Now, for him to forge a partnership alongside someone, he's not going to be a specialist defensive midfielder. His tackling isn't great. He doesn't read the game very well in defensive areas. He's very mobile and he's very simplistic. Now, if you want to play him, my point of view, if you want to play him sort of in a Santi role, I don't think his passing is progressive enough, and I don't think he sees things quick enough. But he is not a bad player at everything, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't sort of turn around and say that I ever think he'll be starting 11, because I think if you sat him alongside Ramsey, I'm not sure I'd trust him enough to cover them spaces behind. Yeah, and I think if you put him alongside Coquelin every week, I'm not sure he'd have the creativity and the oomph about him to really make things happen in the final third. And I actually thought he had one of his best games, if not his best game in an Arsenal shirt at the weekend. I thought he was brilliant in everything he'd done. And even though he was simplistic, and the thing that gripes me about him is when I say he doesn't progressively pass, he made 91 passes. I had a look at it and I thought to myself, right, it's interesting, because watching it, I thought, yeah, he's getting on the ball, he's moving the ball well, but where's the ball going? And so I had a look up at the stats after, and the funny thing is, top 4 pass combinations, number 1 was Mustafi, number 2 was Kieran Gibbs, number 3 was Francis Coquelin, and number 4 was Laurent Koscielny. And out of them 91 passes, he only made 9 to Mesut Ozil in the whole game. Now that's what I'm saying about him not I wouldn't say vision, but he does play the odd progressive pass, but he doesn't do it often enough. Whereas when we see Santi in there, it's like liquid. He does it without even thinking, and we just take it for granted. Now, there are other players, and El Nene will have a massive part to play, like he did at Sunderland, and he was brilliant in that midfield, and he was very, very good for that game. And I just think he's not ever going to set the world alight, but he's a jack of all trades, and he's someone who's very, very important to this squad. And even if he doesn't play for 15 games, he's still going to come in and have a job to do. And when he does it, he's got to do it well. And all you're going to do at Sunderland is say, hats off. We could have probably took him more to the sword, but we didn't have to. And he just done a nice job in there, kept recycling the ball. And fair play to Mo El Nene. He had a good game. But with regards to the question, I'm not sure I could ever trust him at this stage in his career to be him and someone, because I don't think he is a specialist in anything, but he's good at and good at everything.
No, that's fair enough. I'd be very much inclined to agree with that. Just keeping it with you briefly I'd be interested to know, what is in your opinion, our strongest midfield pivot?
Oh, yeah.
I know. I've been waiting to ask that for about a month now.
Yeah, see,
you don't have to even ask it, do you? Really? Let's be serious.
Nah, let's be honest with it.
I don't know.
Do you know, the funny thing is, at the moment, Francis Coquelin has been absolutely fantastic, and he epitomises the way that sort of the team as a whole have played this season. He's hard and fast and aggressive, but I do actually think that Coquelin is, for me, I think Coquelin's best position is in front of the back four, and I still do think that. Although he presses high well, I don't think he has the quality in the final third, and I don't think he has sort of the ability to make the third man runs in behind and make a difference in the final third. So as an aggressor of a two in the central midfield pairing, I'm not sure Coquelin's that man. But I wouldn't write off Coquelin Ramsey. I wouldn't write off anyone, because everyone's playing well. But my preference, I think Granit Xhaka is going to grow and grow and grow as a footballer. And in a couple of years' time, he could even be our captain. I think he's going to be massive for our football club. But we need to give him time to settle in. And I just like the idea of, because of his lack of mobility, and he's not, I wouldn't say he's sluggish, but he's not quick. So I think he's better at patrolling in front of the back four, and we'll let someone else go and do the pressing game, do the attacking side of things, and just sit comfortable. So I would like to see Xhaka Ramsey, but we've got so many options, and I can't. Do you know what? At the start of this season, we've had lots of conversation about it. I've always been adamant about what I would like to see, but you've got to just go horses for courses, and you've got to realise that it is a squad game. But I must admit, I'm so excited to see Xhaka Ramsey, and I really do think them two as a pair could blow, because I think Xhaka will patrol, his balls through the lines, his intelligence, Ramsey's ability to play in and around the centre forward, and also cover so much ground between the boxes. He's not just a forward player. He's got to be just as quick. Like Clive said a lot of times, he's got to be as quick in his defensive gear as he is in his forward gear. And I do think Ramsey's got the engine. We saw a little cameo the other day. He can carry the game from box to box, and it'll be interesting to see, because at the moment it's hard to drop Coquelin because he's performing consistently, but no one in this team is going to be able to play 50 games. End of. So I not even mentioned Santi. So it's silly. The wealth of options we've got is silly. But yeah, I think Xhaka Ramsey is going to be something that really does excite me, and I can't wait for it, to be honest with you.
No, if we can keep Cazorla, Ramsey, Xhaka, Coquelin, El Nene fit, then the options that we've got in there, if we'd have kept Jack Wilshere as well, all the options we'd have had going into these games, especially if you look at the games we've got coming up against, we've got Southampton in the Cup, we've got Spurs at home, United away, PSG at home as well in the Champions League. All these combinations, all this trickery we can have with the team. It's fantastic to watch all these scenarios that we can line up in with this Arsenal squad. But one other player I just want to briefly talk about, Clive, is Kieran Gibbs. I thought he came into the squad yesterday and had a absolutely superb performance in place of the injured Nacho Monreal. And Monreal has been at the sword a little bit in terms of getting quite a bit of stick off our own fans, which I think is not necessarily warranted, but he has at times shown that he has been unable to cope with players such as Barrow and Traore the other week. He has typically struggled against what is a very average player with quite a lot of pace about him. So rightly, I think Gibbs got that start in midweek against Reading and got that opportunity yesterday against Sunderland. Got the assist for the goal as well. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, he was great. Just finish up with that midfield, if you don't mind. I think we are spoiled. If you look around around some of our opposition have. I mean, we talk about El Neni, and yes, I agree with what I said about this before. But I prefer El Neni to Jordan where he can. I think he's 23, 23, 5-year plus. Ramsey 25. The future is really strong. Coquelin 25. Those four I think are going to be great going forward. And on Kieran Gibbs, he's just like a model, right? Everyone thought that Gibbs, including myself at one point, Oxlade-Chamberlain, they were all dead last year. The British squad was finished, right? And it's quite interesting that the players, particularly, have just reinvented themselves. I don't think it's all. I think a lot of it's down to them as individuals. They have turned their games around. They've looked to one. They are producing. Theo Walcott is unrecognisable, right? Completely unrecognised, and he's more recognised for what he's doing off the ball this year. He's always had the out to in run. He's always had the strength to finish. When he's in areas and he's just producing. Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's had a little bit of get. He's working harder. He's not too well. He's not working hard enough defensively. He's trying to run off the ball behind the lines a little bit more. And Kieran Gibbs, has always been a little bit rash, always been a little bit, inconsistent on his final ball. I sometimes feel he doesn't look at his other fullback. The other fullback touches even higher. We were caught out on the break. He seems a lot calmer, a lot more positionally aware. He uses triggers much more sensibly. He knows when to join in. He went to the corner flag once and he sets up the second goal. I mean, his ability and, of course, the quality of cross. We've all been critical of that over the years. The quality of that cross was it wasn't thrashed out; it was just stroked across the box. He's very, very quick. He's got what I call a straight back. So he's one of those players, when the ball goes to him, he never gets his head down. He's always got his head up. He was schooled as a midfielder as a youngster. He used to play left wings, play centre midfield. And because now he's a left back, when the ball comes, he always got his head up and he moves it quickly. He moves off the line to create an angle to receive it. Combination play is getting better. I thought Monreal was always better than him in short combinations with Santi on the left-hand side. But I think he's improved on that. And we feel more comfortable with his speed. And we've got Spurs coming up. And so if I say to you guys right now, we've got a lot of speed with Spurs, who do you want to play? And right now, I choose Kieran Gibbs to play that game because I think he's in better form. He just looks sharper. He'll be used to that game. And if I want to come out that day, with a good day out on Sunday, he's got to play for me because I trust him more. I trust his athleticism more, and Spurs are probably, the most team that is driven by an athletic identity. So for me, he plays, and for me, he's earned his place to start. And when he was waiting for Monreal, he never said a word. The harmony was there. Whenever he came in, he was always spot on. And now maybe Monreal's turn to sit down and I'll sit down for a little while. So that's the way football goes. Fair play to him.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely love a bit of Kieran Gibbs, and I thought he was absolutely immaculate on Saturday, should I say, against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. But another player that stood out as well, setting up the first goal, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's a player that's been on the periphery of Arsenal's first team for quite a while now, and he's played quite a few games in recent weeks. He got a chance against Ludogorets a week ago. He got the game against Reading, and he scored 2 wonderful goals. Set up that beautiful first goal for Alexis Sanchez. Absolutely rinsed Duncan Watmore on that right-hand flank. Do you think now that maybe he's earned a right to be getting a starting berth in this Arsenal team going forward?
If I'm brutally honest, no.
That's fair enough.
My reason why is Ox he's never a 70-30 player. He's always 50-50 in my opinion. He either does something magnificent or absolutely atrocious. And I think that game in a nutshell was sort of it. I mean, the first half, he really, really does not like playing wide, in my opinion. Whether it's a managerial instruction or not, he spent the majority of that first half tucked inside. At times, he was very, very deep. He was playing deeper than our two central midfielders, getting the ball and playing the ball a lot of the times. And the one time, like you said, when he got past Duncan Watmore, what a phenomenal bit of play by Ox. World-class cross, beat his man, had him on toast. He couldn't, he was gone. And you look at that and you think, right, bloody hell, they're going to be scared now, Ox. They're going to be scared. And then he spent the rest of the half inside again, hiding, trying to get the... It's so frustrating watching him. And then I personally think, in that game, if we'd have had someone who retained the width and who had the ability to run in behind, then on that right side, we could have been 6-7-0, 8-0 up. It would have been embarrassing. But
well, do you think it was because it was too easy yesterday?
Maybe, mate.
Because they were strolling. It wasn't just Meta Ozil was having a stroll up as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. Basically, you touched on it earlier, Clive. I think we played to their level, which was extremely frustrating. We didn't have that ruthless streak, and with Ox, a thing I noticed, and we were just talking about Gibbs, who I thought had a fantastic game. I talk a lot of the times when we're at our best. I think we have a combination between our fullback and our winger, and they didn't look like either side. They were on a level, and that worries me a bit with going forward if it's a permanent fixture there, because what we've seen a lot this season between Walcott and Bellerin is a real. They're on a level. They're on a wavelength. They know exactly what's happened. Less so on the left-hand side with Monreal, who's been left horrifically exposed. But it really has been interesting to see Ox. And in the second half, he actually started to run in behind, and he got in behind, but he fluffed his lines. And that's where you look at Ox and you think, come on, fella, like, you've done what you've done in the first half. Brilliant, great cross, world-class delivery. You got us in front. Then he dropped down to the level. It all went a bit too easy. And then it just didn't really happen second half for him. He did play a fantastic through ball to Meza, who should have put it away. I'll give him that. But again, he was playing that from very deep in the centre of the pitch. And that's not where I want to see my right winger. And that's probably me being very picky. But I just think we could have been more of a killer, and he could have been more of a killer. And I think maybe is it still a confidence thing? But you would have thought after he's just absolutely rinsed the fullback and got it in the box for perfect cross and unbelievable header, you just want to see Ox go on. And like I said in the second half, when he got him behind twice, one of them, well, it ain't even worth talking about. It's frustrating, bless him. And you just want to see him continue to contribute them numbers, but on a more of a 70-30 basis than a 50-50, I think, because that's what's going to take him to the next level. To do that, I'm not wanting him to do that every game. I'm not wanting him to be wide every game. But I just want to see him, when he gets them opportunities, take them a bit more often than he has been. But it was a lovely bit of play to set up the goal. But I just do question why. It was almost like Clive said, as if we went down to their level. I couldn't really understand why he didn't sort of go for the jugular and just say, look, I know I've got the beating at you. I'm stronger than you. I'm quicker than you. I can get to the byline. I can get round you. And Alexis has already mugged the centre-back off. They're worried about him. So it just didn't happen. And we eased through until... And it was the same on the left as well with Alex.
Yep.
He looked very tired again. And I actually thought that half-time that Giroud change could have come. And when I said about the combinations, as soon as Alexis went out on the left, he gets the ball, one dribble inside, and he knows Gibbo's there. Gibbo knows that Alexis is going to feed him. And that bit of play, just off he goes. Great ball by Gibbs. And that, in a second, them two played together on the left wing for a second, and they had already made a combination that had created us a goal. And you don't have to stay wide to combine, but you have to be on a wavelength. And I just think Alexis knew and Gibbs knew, whereas we didn't see that in the whole first half. We didn't get to the left byline once in the whole first half. Or before the 70th minute, in fact. Yeah.
I'm just going to come in there. I think the whole team died after half-time. I thought they just...
Yeah, they thought the game was done.
Yeah, they thought the game was done. And they died, all right? And actually, before Sunderland got the penalty, I was actually quite upset with Ox, actually, because there was a cutback from the left, and he was lazy out on the right, and he should have been in the centre to get the shot. Didn't quite get there. They break away and get the penalty. And I was fuming with him because you scored your probably record number of goals, scored 5 goals this season. You've got a team here. You could be a flat track bully. You could murder them. But footballers don't think like that. They just think, well, you know what? We're going to win this today. If I can get away with 80% effort before we go to Bulgaria, that's what I'll do. right? So as fans, we're thinking, why are you doing this? Why are we doing that? And it's like, it's a bit frustrating, especially at 1-0. Then we go 1-1, doomsday scenario, and we're wondering what's going to happen. But suddenly, it wasn't just Giroud, the whole team just went up 20% immediately. Suddenly we were overlapping. Suddenly the ball was moving quicker. And then we scored the goals and it was game over. So we reacted really, really quickly, which tells you by how much better we really were. And we were just taking the game too easy. I don't mind us doing that, but I prefer it at 2-0, not at 1-0, because it could have hurt us. But yeah, I'm an Ox fan, but I sort of agree with Woz, actually. I was more disappointed in him yesterday because I felt the opportunity was there for him to really make a mark. And
he could have scored a few as well.
Yeah, I don't think he quite grabbed it. Didn't disgrace himself. But, you know, it's competition, isn't it? That's your moment. And I didn't quite grab it.
No, I don't think he did enough in that game to... I mean, he's competing on that right-hand side with Theo Walcott. And for me, he did not do anywhere near enough to disperse Theo Walcott as of yet.
I think it's a balancing cookie, right? I think if Ox plays right, Giroud's got to play centre forward. Because in that game yesterday, we literally had 6 midfielders. You could say we had no strikers in the game. Alexis is recently converted. Iwobi's a number 10, number 11. Ozil's a 10. Ox is a centre mid stroke right wing. And we had the 2 in behind. We had no forwards, right? So if you're going to play Ox right, you've got to play Giroud. And if you're going to play Alexis centre forward, you've got to play Theo, because Theo plays wide, but his instincts are that of a striker. So you feel as though you've got a striker on the pitch, right? So I felt we were striker light yesterday. And again, we learned a lot about the future. I think we learned a lot about our balance. We learned a lot was not quite right. And we managed to learn all that and win 4-1 away. So I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exciting times. And Woz, you did mention previously that maybe it's a bit of a confidence thing with Oxlade-Chamberlain, but it would surprise me that given he got those 2 goals in midweek against Reading, and he got the goal previously against Ludogorets, he got the assist yesterday, a fantastic assist. He's got no right to be short on confidence. You know, the world is his oyster at the moment. He's getting chances in the team as well, and I predict as well that he's going to get a start in Bulgaria on Tuesday night. So, I mean, he's got to be taking opportunities whilst they come to him, because, I mean, this is a squad that is heavily rotating from time to time now, and he, if he wants to stake a claim in the team, you know, he's got to buck up his ideas in a way and put in more reassured performances in opportunities that he had, such as yesterday. But, you know, fair play to him. The whole team didn't put in, you know, collective performance for the majority of that game at times yesterday, and it's just a shame that he could have done a bit more in that game. But yeah, moving on to the next point of discussion was, I'll come to you on this, the penalty from Jermaine Defoe. It was a penalty, in my opinion. Watching it back, I was quite adamant at the time that Czech hadn't even touched Jermaine Defoe, but looking it back, he's definitely touched him with his shoulder. Atkins has given it. And yeah, fair enough. As I say, it's a penalty. But if you look back about 30 seconds earlier, where Alexis Sanchez has been brought down by, I can't quite remember who, but, you know, if anything, that's a more blatant foul to the one Petr Cech has committed on Duncan Watmore. I mean, it was pretty poor how he gave away the penalty, just a lapse in concentration. Mustafi making the slip, and Watmore, who I always predicted was going to be Sunderland's most dangerous and busiest player throughout the course of this game, getting in, taking it around Petr Cech, and Cech inevitably making the foul. I mean, what was your take on that whole lapse in the game, that whole minute where Atkinson seemed to get it so dreadfully wrong?
I thought, as a whole, I thought Atkinson was an atrocious ref. I thought he had a very, very bad game. I thought he let far too much go in the first half. I thought Pienaar could have easily received 2 yellow cards. I thought that booking should have come earlier. There was a lot of late tackles and a lot of things going on that he would just allow him. I mean, the kung fu kick on Coquelin's head, what is that all about? I mean, and the penalty, I mean, I'm up in the gods, miles away, at the other end of the pitch, and even I can see that Alexis has been wiped out. And when I watched it back, you could see he had an arm on his shoulder, he's kicking his leg. Why would he go down? Like, it's obvious to everyone in the stadium, and you get just the feeling in the stadium. All the home end, you can see them thinking, "Bloody hell, we got away with one there." And obviously, we're all fuming because at that time in the game, it's 1-0. We need to get that second, and then, like you said, what happened? And Mustafi, I feel not sorry for him because it weren't great, but the ball just sort of, it was weird. It bounced and just sort of stopped, it like spun and stopped, and he completely misread it. And the same thing happened to Mesut when he tried that lob. The ball come over and it just sort of hit the pitch and went, whoa, stopped and spun back, and they panicked a bit. And Mustafi was cool to see, but I weren't too impressed with Petr Cech there, to be honest with you. And I think that is the biggest weakness in his fantastic armoury, is that he is very, very slow to get down, very slow. And we've seen it on more than one occasion this season already. And Kos was across on the cover as well, so there was absolutely no need. But it was weird with Cech, because it was almost as if he had pulled out of the decision to try and win the tackle, but he left his body in the tackle. He's like, he took his arms out, but his body was still in it. And like you said, it was his shoulder in the end that wiped him out. But I mean, I was spitting, I was going absolutely ballistic. I was going to jump off that upper tier. I wanted to get at Atkinson because of what it was lit so soon after as well. And you thought then, oh, like it was just rage, red mist. But thankfully, it didn't cost us in the end. But I thought Atkinson on a whole was an atrocious ref, and I've seen a lot of them this season. And like Clive alluded to earlier, it was almost as if
sympathy ref, mate.
Sympathy ref, and he allowed them to kick 2 tons out of us, and it didn't matter because we were going to win the game anyway. And someone could have got their leg broken in that game. We've seen it, and a lot of times with Arsenal because of how we moved the ball. And if, like Clive said, if we are a bit slower in moving the ball, then we're susceptible to a bad tackle because teams will try and get amongst you. And if you're that half a yard too slow, that's when you're going to get crunched. And these players ain't. Some of them are they're pub tackles, they're Sunday league tackles, and the ref needs to stop it. But yeah, it was a mad minute or two, and then you've gone from 1-0 up and cruising against the worst team you've seen in years to, hang on a minute, this is the Premier League, anything could happen. And thankfully, I know someone tweeted in that question about the keepers not being sent off. I mean, that role has saved us big time, and not just today. He could have gone off at Hull, and it could have been a completely different scenario. And like Clive said earlier, if we go 1-1 with Cech down to 10 men, I think flipping hell, no matter how bad they are, it's a tough ask in the Premier League.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, we saw Man United struggle at home to Burnley yesterday, and that was when they had 10 men as well. But thankfully, Burnley held on for a result in that match. But yeah, we won't talk about that too much. Just thankful for Burnley holding on there at Old Trafford. Clive, what was your take on the penalty? Obviously, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I think it'd be interesting to get 2 viewpoints on this. Do you think that Atkinson, I wouldn't say got it spot on, but as you alluded to, do you think he is somewhat of a sympathy referee?
Yeah, it was a pen, and Cech did try to pull out, and he saw that. I thought Cech was a bit unlucky actually because he saw that Koscielny was coming back. He saw that he had the pace on him, and so he completely changed what he was going to do, and he turned away, but just couldn't quite get his body out of the way. And so Watmore does not have to jump him; he can just run into him, right? And then Cech has impeded him, and that's it. Penalty, yellow card, job done. I thought the referee was average, and it is important. Refs have got to work this. They've got to work out what's actually happening in the game. As the ball starts to, if you're a defender, right, and you're getting the ball to your man, what you're taught is you travel as the ball is moving. And this is what I keep saying: pace of pass is really important to us, because once you punch it around the place, you can't get near people, and that stopped us getting kicked. I felt, we saw Lucas go off, get kicked the other day. There's some of the defenders are just thick, right? And that foul that Lucas got injured for was way worse. That's a pro's tackle, step on the Achilles. It was way worse than what Xhaka did in broad daylight, a little tap on the ankle, someone goes over. He gets a 3-game ban. And that guy just walks away with a booking, thank you very much, I'm playing next week. And referees have got to work that out, what's actually happening here. They've got to try to protect and respect the game and manage the game properly and make sure that, thugs don't get away with injuring people, not just our players. You just don't want to see it, right? Because that's not good. That's just not going to work from my angle. I'm not against getting in their faces and all the rest of it and putting a high press on all the rest of it. When you're getting sneaky tackles from behind, stepping on Achilles when you've got no chance of getting the ball, people got to recognise that and punish people accordingly. Mine Atkinson, he's an average referee. I don't really want to talk about him too much because he was managing a game there that was, in the end, in hindsight, we was always going to win it, and he knew it, and he let a few too much go, and it could have cost us another player. And we're talking about Ox and we're talking about these type of players, but we're going to miss Lucas Perez now, and Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to play a lot of minutes because we don't have as many wide men as we really think we have. You know, we're going to need them. You know, and we have a lot of auxiliary midfielders playing out wide who want to play number 10. I mean, Aaron Ramsey was brought on wide yesterday. Iwobi plays wide. Neither of them want to be there. You know, so we're going to need that. You know, so you know, I do think, you know, losing Lucas is going to be a bit of an issue for our squad, because I always felt we were one wide person short anyway. Now we've lost a potential another one.
Yeah, some great points made there. I do think, although we may not see it now, when we're, you know, knee deep into this horrific month we've got coming up in November, Lucas Perez will possibly be a big miss for us. But let's talk about another impact player we've got in the name of Olivier Giroud. He was simply fantastic when he came on. First 2 touches, 2 goals. If we'd have had him for that game against Borough, I'm confident we'd have got 3 points in that match. I mean, how big is Olivier Giroud going to be for us this season? Not just physically, but in this team as well.
I've always been a massive Giroud fan. He puts a smile on my face, and he was chomping at the bit. Him and Ramsey were both. Do you know, I actually spent at half time. I very rarely take any notice of subs or that, and I was watching them two, and they were pinging the ball 30 yards to each other. First touch, outrageous flicks, volleying it back. And they just looked ready. They looked like they were physically ready. They were chomping at the bit. They couldn't wait to get on that pitch. And you see by Olivier Giroud's celebration how happy he is to be back out on the pitch. And I think after the summers they had, they both got to the semis in the tournament, didn't they? And they both had a long old summer, and they've come back and had a rest. And Wenger's done well to sort of manage it, that they've had a full sort of pre-season now. And they're footballers, and they just want to play. Whatever you say about them, they want to be involved. And Olivier Giroud is massively important for Arsenal, and not just the Middlesbrough game. We look at the Burnley game, we could have made a massive impact. The Southampton game, it was 1-1. He come on and did make an impact with what people don't often give him credit for is his movement in and around the box, and he does make intelligent runs. Just because he's 6'4" doesn't mean he can't make an intelligent run. He's not explosive, but he is intelligent, and the way he brings others into the game, including fullbacks, including the wide men, including the runners from deep. Olivier Giroud changed the whole dynamic of the way we can play. Now, for me, I wouldn't say he's a plan B, because I think in a hell of a lot of games, he's going to need to be plan A, because he can tire defences. Even though he won't physically get them running, it's not easy playing up against a massive bloke like him, challenging for headers non-stop throughout the game. He's a bully. And he not just that, he's intelligent, and he's very skillful and very clever on the ball. And that first finish, make no mistake about it, what a finish. And the header was even better. I don't think he's been given enough credit for that, to get under the ball. I remember him scoring against Reading in the League Cup away in that 7-5 game. Got under the ball, big header up, far post. It's a difficult skill. And Olivier Giroud is going to be very, very important for us for the rest of the season. And I do think he could, if he can push 20 goals, it would be huge for us. And that's what we're going to need from him. We really are going to need from him to get that sort of figure. And I just think he changes everything we can do so much. And I don't think that you can look at the current system and say there's no way Giroud could be involved in that. And a lot of people have written him off. And I think, although he lacks the dynamic side of things, what he does give the team with his ability to bring other players into the game and that side of things turns us up another level. Because if you're running against Alexis Sanchez and you're trying to deal with him, not just physically, mentally for 60, 70 minutes, and then a 6'4" strapping striker, so he comes on the pitch and you're, as a centre-back, you're thinking, oh, really? Are you serious? Have I got to compete with this guy for the next 20 minutes? And straight away, Olivier Giroud made the impact, and he just made it look so easy. And it ain't easy, but we got massive options. Like we keep saying, in midfield, in defence, up front, we are good, and we have got a lot of options. And Giroud, people need to start realising that he is not a two-bit player. He is a very, very good centre-forward who went out to the Euros and starred for his country, the host nation. He's got a very good goal-scoring record. I think I saw earlier, I think he's 13th or 14th goals per minute in Premier League history, which is phenomenal. And he's massively underrated. And I don't want to turn around and say he's a world-class centre-forward, because he ain't, because he has got limitations to his game. But what he does do, he is as good as anyone out there at what he does do. And I can't wait to see Theo Walcott and Olivier Giroud together. because I would love to see a front three of Alexis, Giroud, Walker. I just think it would cause absolute carnage because you've got two wide men there who can both play as centre forwards, and they both like getting in positions at centre forward. Olivier Giroud can drag defenders all over the place. You've got the freedom from central midfield to play off of him and get involved, and it's just good. It's really, really good. I just hope with these massive games coming up, Wenger, this is where he earns his money, because we've had some good results so far this season. We've had some not so good, like lucky wins with Burnley and things like that. We've ground them out without Giroud. Now we have got Giroud, and we go to Sunderland. We go from 1-0 to 4-1 up in 6 minutes, just with flick of the switch, and it's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. So fingers crossed he gets a lot of minutes, and there's a lot of time for him to really make a huge impact this season. Yeah,
definitely. Olivier Giroud, beautifully underappreciated giant. He is a class player to have amongst our ranks. And I think, touching on your point there about Walcott, Giroud and Alexis, I think it would be somewhat harsh at this stage in the season to maybe call what is essentially our strongest front three, because the way we can play with all the options that we've got, I mean, all those players, Iwobi, Alexis, Chamberlain, Walcott, Giroud, they've all got a part to play in all these different combinations that we can set up. And we're so spoiled as Arsenal fans at the moment with all the luxuries that we've got going up front. But coming towards the end of the game now, Clive, we saw one player get about five minutes on the pitch, and that was Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who it's difficult to talk about his performance because of course he didn't have much of an impact on the game, but he played in midweek against Reading. I thought he did some good things going forward. I don't think he was the worst player on the pitch, which some players called him as he was in that game. I certainly don't think he was one of the worst players on the pitch, but against Sunderland, that five minutes he got, how do you think he performed, and do you think there's potentially an opportunity for him to break through at some point this season?
Yeah, funny enough, me and G were talking about him in the last podcast actually, and Wenger has spoken about him being a potential Coquelin understudy. He sees him as that type of player, and so he's been at Arsenal since he was 9 years of age. He's been educated as a right winger. He was a striker as a real young kid, as a right winger. He also spent a year with Mick McCarthy at Ipswich as a right winger. Came back maybe just before the year, actually. Came back. He fell out of the team towards the end of the year, loan period. He come back. I thought he'd go out again. I didn't see any room for him. I don't know if he stayed because Jack went out, but he's seen, in my view, as a centre midfielder now. And Wenger has more or less said, look at Coquelin, look at his profile. That's the type of player that I see you being. He played the game at Forest, I think, as a right back. So he's got that sort of James Milner type quality. He can play all over the place because basically he's good on the ball. He's a good athlete. He's a good size for his age. He can really move. He's got speed. I always worry about our speed across the centre of the park. He's got that. I think he's got a really bright future, actually. And I think, I spoke about midweek. It's really good to see these players getting their chance. Obviously, we've got the next sort of EFL Cup thing coming up. If we do qualify well for the Champions League and get to the top of the group before the end, there's potential more minutes for them there. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Bulgaria this week. There may be somebody coming off the bench there. The more minutes these guys get, the better it is for us. And, the better it is for us that we don't have to go and spend big money all the time. Right? Because I really like the look of these youngsters. I really like the look of him, Jeffrey and Adelaide, obviously Iwobi. I think it's important. We're just starting to see Iwobi just flag a little bit. We just need to make sure we don't do what he did to Jack, playing 60 games in a season. He ends up with a stress fracture of his ankle, and then we lose him for 2 years basically. Not just for that, but we overplayed him when he was young, and I think it was our fault. He was so special that we just wanted to keep dipping in the cookie jar. You know what I mean? And there was an effect on that kid, and I think we as a club have a responsibility to that. So yeah, the more these guys that reach the level, the more opportunities where we don't have to rotate them. And I was to talk about Giroud there, and it was great to see Giroud fresh. We flogged that bloke for years. We flogged him until he can't even tie up his own boots, let alone finish a goal, right? And so whatever happens going forward, we don't have to flog him anymore. And when he's fresh, how good did he look? Everything looked better. So that's going to be Wenger's main challenge, really. Getting the rotation right, recognising when someone's flagging, taking them out, don't worry about it. I mean, years gone by, Walcott might have played yesterday, but we don't have to play him. We can play Oxlade-Chamberlain, and it's okay. Maybe not exactly the same, maybe not the balance we all would have liked, but it was okay, right? And we won the game. And now Theo won't pull his hamstring, and we lose him for 2 months, right? So that's the beauty of the squad, and I think we're all starting to appreciate that.
Yeah, without doubt. And just capping off on this Sunderland victory the other day, got a few tweets in from all you wonderful people that have tweeted us at the Gooner Ramble. And I'll come to you first on this one from TT at @has_AFC. And he says, do you think there's more resilience in the team now?
We've certainly shown it, haven't we? We've certainly shown it. And we talked about the Burnley game, and we wouldn't have won. Getting the last-minute winner against Southampton kept plugging away. The Chelsea game, absolutely bossed that side off the park. We've really, really shown that there's something extra in this team, and not just with regards to people like Mustafi, who you watch, and I watched Mustafi for 90 minutes, and the bloke's an absolute leader on the pitch. He comes out at the start of the second half. I can see him there. I can see him going, go on. He's doing this to every player on the pitch. He's looking over at Gibbs. He's coming over, hugging Gibbs when he comes out. He's hugging Koscielny. He's going over to Bella and he's talking to him. He's constantly involved with everyone. And that's what you want to see throughout the team. And it's a big, big difference. And there are players there that are going to be taking games by the scruff of the neck now and standing up for each other. And really, 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 we are showing some great resilience. And I like it a lot, because in previous years, we would have gone 1-1 there, and we probably, even though they're terrible, we might not have seen that victory in. And what a response. Bang, subs come on, bang, straight away. See you later. We're Arsenal. If you deal with us like this, we're going to do this to you. And that's something we ain't seen in a long time. And I love seeing not just the impact of the players off the bench, and not just the way the players perform during the game, but even every goal we score now, you can see how happy, and just the players just all seem to be pushing in the right direction. And there ain't no bad eggs like we've had for years. There's rumours of rifts in the change room for years and years. And it just seems to me like this squad of players are all in it together, all pushing the right way. And
I was
going to go.
I was going to ask you,
go on, mate.
You remember when Oxlade-Chamberlain scored the goals against Reading? The first person to go and congratulate him seemed to be Iwobi, right? And you think that maybe they're the two competing for one place almost. Do you see what I mean? And I totally agree with you. There seems to be no issues, even between the people that are really competing for places. There's just nothing there to say there's any sort of resentment, or they seem to be helping each other to all achieve the same goal. And I've definitely noticed that. I don't know, sometimes you go to more games than me. I don't know if you can see that on the pitch as well, So.
Certainly, 100%. You can see so many things happen in games, and even little things like Coquelin winning a tackle, and after he wins it high up the pitch, he turns around and he's going, come on. If someone ain't where they should be, he's going, come on. It's like having an Uber upgrade on Flamini, because Flamini used to do the shouting bit, but he didn't really know what he was shouting at. Yeah, and basically he was very good at shouting, which I think a lot of us are in the stands every week. But it was basically one of us on the pitch, which was a frustrating thing, because the heart was in the right place. He was just a dump on the pitch. But we really, really have looked like a proper team, and there's so many leaders and so many players and so much passion and aggression in the side. And when you see someone like Olivier Giroud come on and score straight away, and Gibbs, you see Gibbs, and everyone's playing their part. Aaron Ramsey comes on. They're all playing their part. They all want it. They're all loving it at the moment. And the bigger test is very certainly coming up, because me and Cookie were discussing before, at this stage last season, we were on 22 points after 10 games, joint top with Man City. Now, we all know what happened last season, but the thing I'd dismiss that with is last season we saw Matthew Flamini come in, and we had nowhere near the wealth of depth.
It was that game against West Brom last season. That's what...
Yeah, capitulated the West Brom and Norwich games, and we got Coquelin injured, Santi injured, and it as soon as Cock and Santi were gone, it just went from there, and whoever it was. But this year, if we lose players for a time, I don't think we should be seeing us. Obviously, it could happen, but we shouldn't be getting a long-term injury for a muscular injury, because there's no need. Because Wenger can rotate, and he has got the wealth of options. And like what you said, Clive, Theo in previous years might well have played. Monreal might well have played.
Cazorla might well have played, yes.
Cazorla might well have played, exactly. And it's good, isn't it? I'm enjoying it at the moment, and I really hope we can continue it. I just don't know what to expect coming up with the bigger games, but
we get three massive players back this week. We get Giroud, Ramsey, and Xhaka. 3 6-footers, 3 proper players ready to go. All internationals. They all come into the squad. Yeah,
couldn't be more
put a big smile on my face here, mate.
They're not messing about, are they? They're coming in. They're thinking, right, we've had a rest. Right, well, we watched you lot running around. We're going to show you what we can do. Right, so that's why my
they're not just coming in though, Clive.
Yeah, that's why my opinions change.
They want to kill, don't they?
They want to kill.
They want to make the impact.
I've had my views on people, but I can see the team are buying into this, and they're thinking, well, I want some of this. I like what I'm seeing. I now see all the players in the right place. I now see the players behind our first players just as good. And if I don't do it, I won't even get a tracksuit on the game day. I'll be in my suit. Right, so and that means we're seeing better performances, right? So if you want to be in the stand, not even on the seats, the red seats behind the manager, you better start playing. Right, so that's great for us. Right, so I've never seen Aaron Ramsey cover so much ground yesterday. He was everywhere. I swear he got the tees after the game as well and swept the stands. You know what I mean? He had so much energy. He was flying around everywhere, trying everything. Back flips around the corner, running back, running forward. I'm just smiling to myself, right? Thinking, this is great because eventually he's going to do something. It's going to mean in a big game. We've got Spurs coming out. I just can't wait. I can't wait.
Oh, mate, cannot wait for that North London derby next weekend. But just before we get onto that, another question coming in, and Clive, I'll come to you with this one because I know you'll enjoy it. From @Zeus_Cannon, how good is it that goalkeepers no longer need to be sent off when giving away a penalty?
Well, mate, I don't think we even gave away a penalty, but there's many people going to listen to this that are in Paris in 2006, and the 13-minute European Cup final, right, with 1 billion people watching it. I wish that rule was in place then, right? So because the game was ruined. We saw Chelsea get sent off against Bayern Munich. It's happened to us a loads of time, it feels like. But I knew immediately he wasn't going to get sent off. I just knew, but I'm so pleased that rule's in place because I don't think you need a double jeopardy. You don't need that. You don't need to lose the goalkeeper and concede the penalty. More like concede a goal, because strikers play for that. They know they can absolutely change the course of the game. You're seeing strikers in the past bring the ball up to a goalkeeper, try to initiate contact, knowing that they're going to get the sending off and probably the goal, and they win the game, make no doubt about it, rather than try and score, which means there's something wrong with the rules of the game, right? So I'm really pleased about that. The penalty was enough and would give us a chance to react and win the game. So yeah, I'm over the moon, and I haven't got over Paris yet. I'm still mortified by that. I haven't been able to watch that tape, and so yeah, trust me, I'm pleased that rules changed.
Yeah, great time to be a fan of modern football. But was another question for you, and one that certainly I've got to disagree with, from @the_Gooner. Says, Giroud came on and scored 2, but he doesn't suit our style of play. How will we line up now?
Ooh, here we go.
This is where it gets tasty.
Here we go.
No, that's it's a very nice opinion. Everyone's entitled to one. I personally don't agree with that. I think, like I discussed earlier, I think Giroud can take this style with him and use Giroud in a different way in this style. We can still play the same speed of football. We can still have runners coming from outside to in. We really can cause teams a lot of drama. And the best thing is, with Olivier Giroud up front, with him being 6'4" and so good in the air, and what another thing people don't get about him is his near post running is exceptional. With Theo Walcott on the right and Alexis on the left, he really could score 25, 30 goals. And he doesn't have to start every week now. And what we've seen, like Clive said, in previous years, he's got 19 before Christmas, and then he's dead as a dodo. He's a big old bloke. He's 6'4". We're asking him to run the channels, especially last season. It was a joke. We had inverted wingers. Giroud was being asked to run the channels. You look up, you see Olivier Giroud picking up the ball on the left wing. You think, Jesus Christ, how's he doing it? He's 6'4". He shouldn't be doing that. And we flogged him. We flogged him, and we flogged him for years. And every year I've heard Olivier Giroud come out and say, I'd be delighted for the competition. Now, this season, it's come internally. I mean, we've signed Lucas Perez, but realistically, it's come from an internal solution. And we've changed our style completely. But I don't think Olivier Giroud will kill this style at all. I think, if anything, it's a minor adjustment in the way we're playing. We can still press high. Giroud does work back, and he does win his fair share of tackles. Nowhere near the ability of Alexis with regards to his movement and winning the ball back. But he doesn't do what Alexis drops in and wants it short and wants it to feet. Giroud can be that option to when Mustafi, and I'll tell you that Mustafi is going to love playing with Giroud as well, because he has got an eye for a pass. And you're going to see a lot of it, I think. Mustafi into Giroud, direct. And Giroud knows where his runners are going to be. And you're going to have Walcott running off in one side, Alexis coming off in the other way. You could have Ramsey coming from deep. You could have people going everywhere. And it could be a chaos factor in a different way. And Giroud, he's going to get goals. Whether people like it or not, he gets goals. And let's not write him off, and let's not say he should start every week. But it's two very different options. I wouldn't say the style have to be extremely different, but it's just a matter of, I think, when Giroud's on the pitch, we stick wide, we spread the pitch, we make it bigger, we create more space in the middle, and we play off of him. And then when he's not on the pitch, Alexis is on it. Alexis is going to come in deep, and then the wide men can come in and become centre forwards, and it changes a lot. And teams won't know what to do, to be honest with you. If you're a defender, and like I said earlier, you're defending against Alexis, and he's not there after time, and then all of a sudden Walcott pops up, and then you think, where the bloody hell's he come from? And then all of a sudden Giroud's on, and he's touched tight to you, and you've been running around like a nutter for 70 minutes. You ain't going to be first to the ball. Giroud's going to be first ahead of you. He's going to win the header. He's going to outstrength you. He's going to muscle you off. And before you know it, the fullback's gone. We're in behind. Gibbs is crossing. Whoever Bellerin's it, we could just cause chaos to big teams as well. I'm not talking flat track bully Giroud. I'm saying in big games, he could make a difference against the biggest teams. He scored big goals for Arsenal. Not on a consistent basis, but in big games, he has made a difference for us. And that was when he was the only option. He ain't the only option anymore. And it's going to be interesting to see how Wenger does approach these big games, and whether Giroud gets a nod, and whether Alexis gets a nod, and whether Alexis plays with Giroud. And there's so many different options. And one last thing I'd say about him, in the summer, everyone was raving about Antoine Griezmann playing off of Giroud. Now, in Alexis and Theo, we've got two men that all they want to do is get in behind and play off of the striker. And Alexis will come to feet more with the 1-2s with Giroud, and Theo will be in behind more with the 1-2s with Giroud. And it just opens up a wealth of options. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of clubs in the Premier League who would launch Olivier Giroud starting for them week in, week out. I'd say the vast majority. I mean, you look at Zlatan starting every week for United. I actually think at the moment Olivier Giroud would be doing much better job for them. Way better. And not just that. So good on Giroud, and thanks for the question, fella. But hopefully we prove him wrong with Giroud, and he does make a big impact.
No, I mean, just giving my personal opinion on that as well. I mean, I think it's a perfectly reasonable question. And I think if you look at the way Arsenal have been playing this season, if you've consistently watched every game that we've played with Alexis, Walcott and Iwobi and Ozil in behind as well, and the way those four players play their game, the way they move the ball, how intricate it is, how exciting it is to watch, and no centre-half in the world knows what player to mark out of those three, because each one is as unpredictable as the other. And you could argue that's our strongest style of play. And to say Giroud is not adapted to that way of playing, I think, you know, it offers another dimension to our game. It's maybe not the one roots type of football that we're used to, but the way he plays his game and the way he impacts on other players, I mean, I think he's a superb option to have. And given that we've had him for 4 years now, over 4 years, to say he's not able to play the Arsenal way, I think that's a bit of an overreaction in a way. He offers a lot to this team, and if you look at who's been our top scorer for the past couple of years, I mean, he's definitely amongst it. So he's a quality player to have, whether it's starting games or whether he's coming off the bench. So huge credit to Olivier Giroud. I think he's going to be a massive, massive player for us this season. And as you rightly say, any club in the league would like an option such as him. I mean, we should be thankful that we've got such good options and such good dimensions within this team, because not a lot of clubs have got such a wealth of talent and such a wealth of differences within their side up top. So yeah, we should be really thankful in that sense. But Clive, I'm just going to take a quick look ahead to the game on Ludogorets in midweek, and we're going to keep this one brief. But how do you want to
ask me to name their team, are you, or something like that?
No, God, no. We'd be here all night, mate. But it's a game that I'm looking forward to. It should be 3 points in the bag. You would have thought going to a ground which only holds about 6,000 people. A chance to rest some of our players, perhaps.
Ooh, I don't know about that, mate. I tell you, I think Meta Ozil looked a little bit tired on Saturday. I'm thinking about Spurs, and maybe he should maybe step out. But that's it for me. I just think we've got a real chance with this squad. We can't be talking about this squad and end up finishing second in that group. We've got to make sure when we play PSG that it means something, that we can close the group out and finish top and hopefully progress in the competition, because we've got the players to do it. There's no excuses, right? If we don't pick up any more injuries, we're going to be in good shape. And we've got the players, and as what's to talk about, we've got the options. We've got the options of style, right? So I'm hoping that maybe we take out Ozil, just because I just want him, because Spurs is looming. Right? But apart from that, I'd rather see the rest of the squad travel, and we'll see Xhaka, Ramsey, and Giroud come back in, and it will actually be good to see them all play. It'd be great to see what they've got, right? So and maybe give just some variation, like Iwobi, excuse me, for example, maybe step Iwobi out, just so we don't kill the kid really. But I want to keep it more or less the same. Get that game won, because I thought Ludogorets weren't as bad as the 6-0 sort of gave them.
No, they definitely weren't. That opening 5-10 minutes of the game in the Emirates, I thought they had us on the ropes a little bit at times.
Yeah, they will. They will at home. I think they went 1 up against PSG. They went 1 up against Basel. I mean, they've scored first in all their games apart from ours. Right, so they don't seem to be finishing games very well. So may not be at the same fitness levels of some of the higher quality teams in the higher quality leagues, but they've got some players there. They're the sort of players that are playing to let other Premiership teams see them. So I felt they're all busting the gut against us. They're like they're on trial. They got these, just to say, well, look at me, look what I can do. And if you want to pick me out, and I'll come and play for you, Southampton, I'll come play for you, Bournemouth. You see what I mean? I'll still get 5 times the money I'm on in Bulgaria. So those sort of teams, I call them the have-not teams, but they're playing at the right level. But those players are bursting for contracts. They're the ones to be dangerous. If you score a goal against Arsenal, you get a point or you get a win, that's it. You're moving. Simple as that, right? So you've got to be very wary about these players. Yeah,
definitely. And Clive says that he'd like to see Mesut Ozil rested in that game on Tuesday night in Bulgaria. Who would you like to see come in for him if he is to be rested?
I don't think he will be rested, and the only reason I say that is that he absolutely adores the Champions League, and I think he would. I think he'd hate Wenger forever.
Bet your fiver was. Bet your fiver.
Do you know what? I agree with you. I wouldn't be against it at all, especially with Spurs coming up. But the only way I'm looking at this game is that it is huge, because if we can match PSG's result and then we go and play PSG at home, I do believe it goes on head to head in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So if we beat PSG at home, we've topped the group.
Yeah.
So if we beat Ludogorets and we beat PSG at home, rest these players in the 6th game at Basel, because this is big. They're no mugs. I think they would have beat Sunderland on the viewing I saw of them in the Champions League. I thought they were very good on the ball. They were quick. They weren't stupid. They just run out of legs towards the end of the game, and they weren't a terrible side at all. And I think it's very important that we get the 3 points. I'd maybe more be inclined to try and win the game and then make the subs as early as I can. I know it don't always work out like that.
Yeah.
Or you could go the other route and rest 1 or 2, and but like you said, Clive, you got Xhaka, Ramsey, and Giroud. All 3 of them could start. I mean, Xhaka's got to be chomping at the bit. Them 2 have been out long term. They've had some minutes now. Maybe it's a bit early to start Ramsey, but we don't know what physical condition he's in. You could well start El Nene again and give Ramsey half hour, and it might leave the option of him starting at the weekend. But the main thing is to get the 3 points. And I've got quite a few friends travelling out, and I hope they all have a fantastic time out in Sofia. And it's going to be an experience, because they're never easy, these games. They're in the Champions League for a reason. And they're no mugs like we saw at the Emirates. I know in the end we comfortably won, but let's go out there and and get the game won, and then think about saving our players, and then think about Sunday at because we got a nice Sunday morning kickoff against the boys from up the road. So that's a massive one. But this game is equally as big, because for the long term of our season, it could take us into the PSG game, knowing that a win means for the first time in a long time we top the group and we give ourselves a chance in the Champions League. And with this squad, at the end of the day, you're in a knockout stage and anything could happen. There could be a red card after a second and we could go on and win the game 5-6-0 and be through in the tie. So anything could happen in the Champions League. So if we get through, we've seen lesser teams win the Champions League, not by being the best team in it, but by getting an element of luck and also performing when it really matters. And I think this Arsenal squad could do that. But the first things first is beat Ludogorets. Don't take it lightly, which we've done in previous years. We've seen it even as recent as last year with the whole Zagreb and Olympiacos situation. It was just silly. And thankfully this season we've been brilliant in the Champions League. Not so good against PSG, but it was a big point. And then Basel and Ludogorets, brilliant. So let's go, win the next 2 Champions League games, beat Spurs, go and win the title, win the quadruple, and then I'll be happy.
That's the dream, mate. Clive, on a final note, what's your score prediction for that game on Tuesday night?
I hate score predictions. I think it'd be 2-1. I think we'll concede one, but I think we'll win by the odd goal.
And yourself, what are you saying for that game?
I think if the back 2, if the back 5, I think if he plays Gibbs, Bellerin, Mustafi, Koscielny, and obviously Ospina will come in, which obviously no one's a bit worried. I think we'll be all right defensively. They've been good at home, but I fancy us 2-0. I'll say 2-0. I don't want to get carried away because often I over-predict a score, get myself all excited, and it don't live up to expectations. So we'll save the goals for Sunday.
Of course. And on one final note, I don't suppose either of you two want to see Carl Jenko get a game on Tuesday, do you?
Wouldn't be against it.
No. I wouldn't be against Gabriel playing as well. It doesn't bother me.
Not Rob Holding? I wouldn't mind seeing Holding get a game.
It doesn't worry me. This is the thing. It's not a ferocious debate. Right? I thought Mustafi did quite well yesterday. He had a couple of shaky moments.
Yeah.
Gabriel, and you know what? If he's on the edge, just take him out. Right? We can do it now, right? But the manager knows what to do, right? He sees them every day. I just don't think we need to drag people through injury or poor form. Watching Gabriel and Holding play against Reading, I know it's only Reading, but they looked tremendous. They looked quick, strong. I just was really impressed with the two of them, really. And so yeah, it wouldn't worry me. I think if either of them played in Europe, I think they can manage it. I think they can handle it. And so yeah, it wouldn't bother me at all.
Yeah, without that, we've got some fantastic options all around. But on that note, I'll leave it there. Fantastic time to be an Arsenal fan after what was a very good weekend, and we've got a very exciting game coming up on Tuesday night against Ludogorets, and following that, of course, the very tasty North London derby against Tottenham Hotspur. Anyway, thank you to my wonderful guests, Woz and Clive. Thank you for your contribution, lads. Absolutely fantastic. And thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight to the Gooner Ramble. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter. Once again, thank you to Woz and Clive, and we'll be speaking to you very, very soon.